and then I'm going to say model, and then create new application model. We're going to give it a name. We're going to call this Remedy 8.1, and you can see what's there, and then I'm going to say Save Changes. So now I have a model saved for my Remedy environment, but it's not published yet. So now I've got it to where I can work on it. So this is everything I have. I really don't need to work on any of this. This is my Remedy environment, but let's just say you have a different need of how this is laid out. Perhaps you are a BMC TrueSight customer and you want to do a service model. Or even if you're not a BMC TrueSight customer, you want to see an impact model to see if something goes down, what the impact is going to be. So before, you actually had to go do all that work inside the CMDB to change things up and get that published. From here, all we do now is say change my layout to impact. And now I've got an impact model of my Remedy environment. From here, all I have to do is say publish model, and this information through the CMDB integration will get published to the CMDB, where you can tie multiple applications together into a service and then utilize that within the ITSM realm as well as in the BMC TrueSight arena and any other use case that you may have in your environment. So very easy to do from that standpoint. So again, there's no coding needed, nothing to do. That's our Start Anywhere application model. Let's do one more just so you get the idea. It's going to be very similar to that. We're going to say applications. Let's do Exchange. All right, so again, my most relevant results, I want to go to my software instance. So I've got Exchange, throughout my environment. And, let's just pick one of our Exchange boxes. We're going to go to one of our prod boxes, our prod 01. And it's going to automatically model out for me because in this case, it's just taking my last defaults. And what you're seeing here, and this is just kind of what I wanted to see, it's a lot of information, a lot of communication. It is Exchange. But this is all the different Exchange components, right? But look what else it picked up. At BMC, we use Microsoft Lync for all our chat and internal communication and screen sharing and things like that. Obviously, that's all tied directly into Microsoft Exchange. So again, the first thing I want to do is I can take out some of the a little bit of the noise here from a load balancer perspective. I can come through and edit some of the software component stuff if I need to. I can also remove nodes if I go through and actually remove any particular nodes that I need to. But before I do that, I can put, again, myself in select mode, and then I'm going to come through. I don't want any of the link stuff. And then I'm just going to come all back around. And again, I just say model, new model. Oops. I guess that's a right thing, $ for Exchange, as we all know and love. But we can just say Save Changes. And when this is done saving, I now have a model of my Exchange environment. Again, without doing any type of tipple or coding or CAM work or anything like that, we created a model of that environment. So when it comes up here in just a second, you'll see. So there's my Exchange model. Again, I can change layout. I can change indicators, doing all kinds of relationship routing and things like that. But I'm just going to simply change that to impact, and I now have an impact model of my Exchange environment. So very simple to do. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here today. I just want to show you what's under the Manage tab. So in a full-blown demonstration, I would normally go through how the discoveries are run, how we do the credentials, our integrations and knowledge and things like that. This is really the management of the appliance. And then over here, we have all of our back-end administration and security type features within the appliance. Now, one thing I do want to make sure everyone knows, you can cluster appliances together. This does a couple things for you. We can go up to 7 appliances clustered together, and then we have what we call a consolidation node. So those clustered appliances will act as one single device. They will also be administered as one single device. And then up in that consolidation node, you will see all the information that's across all of your devices. That's how we scale. But also, depending on how many of those devices, it gives you redundancy. So if you have 3 virtual appliances, you can lose 1, and you'll be just fine. If you have 2 virtual appliances, you can lose if you have 5 virtual appliances, you can lose 2. 7 virtual appliances, you can lose 3. So it gives you that level of redundancy and high availability built into the system. Now, our security standpoint, we have full auditing, again, integration into LDAP, single sign-on, very detailed user authentication. The other question that I get that I don't want to go into too much detail, but I will touch at it at a high level, is the knowledge. So how do you understand what's in my environment? What about those 40,000 software things that you said you could go discover in my environment? Once a month, BMC puts out an update on our public website. You will get a notification as a customer that it's out there and everything that it includes, and you go download it as a zip file. They're typically under a couple of megs. You would come right in here, and you would bring in, load your TKU. You just load it up. You point it at the zip file. You don't even have to unzip it. You just say upload, point it at the zip file, and off it goes. It's sucking in all the latest and greatest information for our storage, that extended data pack we talked about, as well as the latest TKU or technology update. So the system knows all the latest and greatest software that's out there that we can discover today. So very easy to do. Now, the last thing that most people ask me about is custom applications. How do I go out and find things? Especially in the federal government and Department of Defense, a lot of custom software out there. So we can actually do that. We can say creating patterns. Well, you can create patterns from scratch. Even when you take the class at BMC that teaches you how to do all this and be an administrator of BMC Discovery, rule number 1 for creating patterns is never start from scratch. Always grab an existing pattern or use a template and go. So what we have provided you is a bunch of templates, and this is super easy to do. All you have to do is open up the template and fill in the variable. So if you have an application that you know a registry entry for, a file name for, an executable, a process, a service, anything like that, you can come in here, grab the appropriate, like the SI version registry. You would open this up and say, my application name is X, and I'm looking for registry key, HKey local _ X, and save it. And then from then on, anytime we find that registry key on one of your Windows boxes, we know it's application X. So very easy to go out and create your own as well. Last but not least, when it comes to all of these templates and creating all of this stuff, we have a huge user community out on communities.bmc.com that pertains to BMC Discovery, where us as software consultants and developers, as well as customers, share our knowledge on things that we have done in here, maybe custom templates that we've created, things like that. So it's always a great resource out there for you. It's always monitored by other customers as well as people within the BMC organization. So with that, I think we have about 10 minutes left. I want to open it up for any questions that may be out on the chat that's out there, or if anybody wants to be unmuted and have a discussion, I'm happy to take those questions right now.
Hey, thanks a lot, Mike. That was great. Let me see. Now, of course, would be a good time to ask a question, but there's a question that has come in, and it says here, what is a professional service estimate to get this up and running? I know that's kind of a broad question, but what are there some rough guidelines that you have to if somebody wants to get started?
Unfortunately, I'm not in the professional services group, but I will, and I mean, with that information, we wouldn't be able to answer the question anyway, and I'm not trying to dodge it, but obviously that is all dependent on size. Is it a data center that has 5,000 devices and I only need 1 or 2 appliances and it's real simple to get in place and throw in? Or are we talking about that other customer where they have a full-blown 10 Class A network and we're talking about discovering 5 million devices? Obviously, that's 2 extremes of the scale, but that professional services work would fall in line. So what I would say is if you get a hold of RightStar And what we can do is have a conversation about scale and size, as well as if you wanted to go into a more detailed demonstration and discussion. And then from that information, we'd be happy to get one of our services project managers in the loop that would be able to give you a fairly accurate ballpark of what that work would entail.
Yeah, and certainly what I've heard from our consultants is that it's getting easier. I know Mike, you showed the Start Anywhere application. There's just not that much to do like there used to be. So you can sort of turn this on and it starts working, and building application maps on its own, it certainly needs some care and feeding, but it's not like it used to be.
No, and that's exactly true. So I'm going to use a proof of concept standpoint. I can have the application up and running in a proof of concept and discovering devices within a couple of hours. That's not a production environment. Obviously, that's not getting everything all nice and pretty and doing the appropriate scaling and doing all the security work, especially if you're DoD and we need to do the DISA-STIGs and stuff like that. But it is because you're not installing anything and it's just a virtual appliance, really the bringing it up and running from a beginning standpoint is suck it in, give it a IP address, host name, DNS. We set up what we call a proxy server, and we're off to the races. Now, after that, there's obviously a lot of things that we would want to do to make it deemed a production-ready system, but it's still not a lot of hard tasks. It's gotten very easy to implement this. And this is actually one of the fastest selling and most adopted tools in the BMC portfolio outside of Remedy within the federal government and Department of Defense. This is, I don't, hate using terms flying off the shelves, but it really keeps us busy, not just with DCOI, but just, a need for our customers for a multitude of reasons. This is really one of our biggest solutions out there.
Yeah, agreed. Here's another question. It comes in, somebody must know something about DCOI. Anyway, they said, what does BMC Discovery do in relation to energy metering, effective power use, virtualization, automated monitoring, and utilization of servers? Now, I think it handles some of those things, right?
Well, so let me answer this very carefully. We can handle all of those things. Now, all of those things aren't just in BMC Discovery. So I want to be very clear on that. So an example would be Discovery goes out and discovers all of our stuff. It's going to give us these models like we looked at today. It's going to give us all of our asset information, telling us how things are communicating and things like that. Now, when we go into that monitoring side of things, that's where we go into our TrueSight line of products. So that would be like TrueSight Operations Manager, or if you want to do our SaaS-based offering, that would be TrueSight Pulse. And that basically is our monitoring tool, if you will. It does so much more than just monitoring, but that would answer the monitoring side of those questions. Now, when we talk about facilities management, inside of BMC Discovery, as I briefly showed you there, it tells you how much power and how much heat how much BTU these things pump out per hour. That is not actually telling you what the actual consumption is. So let's be very clear on that. It's meant for data center planning as far as, okay, the vendor specifications say this is how much heat it's going to pump out and this is how much power it's going to suck for this particular physical server. If you want to do full-blown data center planning, we do have a tool for that as well. It can look at, all your UPSs, your generators, your physical floor plan, your HVACs, rack models, all that kind of fun stuff. We do have that available as well. So absolutely everything in that question BMC can do successfully. It's just not all built inside of BMC Discovery.
What about server utilization? I would expect that's probably pretty straightforward. You just go take a look at that from each server reports that data, and then you could sort of build a graph or a table, right, that shows you, what servers are over or underutilized. Is that right?
Absolutely. So within our capacity management suite, we absolutely go through and look at that, but it does so much more.